Ms. Believer, Dr. Believer, told us at the beginning of that line, you are just and unto dust you will return. And that actually comes from Genesis. And the full verse, Genesis 3:19, tells us, by the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you will return. I often think of Ash Wednesday as a day in the church calendar that holds great significance, but depending on how we view it, it can also be a bit of a downer. For example, the quote from Genesis that I started with comes from, if anyone can tell me, what moment in the story of Adam and Eve? Anyone? Yeah.
Is it like in the beginning, like when it's just Adam and Eve?
No, they're together at this point. Oh, we got some freshmen. I thought some freshmen might know. Go ahead, Tim. No, not before the apple. Max? After the apple, my man. So that moment is actually the expulsion from the garden, where God is basically expelling them. So not exactly maybe the most uplifting passage at first glance. However, when I think about it, and when I was thinking about it last night, I actually do believe there's great beauty in this verse. And I think the beauty comes in the form of maybe a harsh reality. And that reality is that we are imperfect beings who are not immortal. That's right, at some point, to dust we will return. You might be thinking that this is taking a turn, but stay with me. And I think this connects really well to a poem that I actually happened to come across recently. It's a poem by Jan Richardson, and it's called Ash Wednesday, Blessing the Dust. So I'll read the poem real quickly, and then a quick story, and we'll move along. So let us be marked, not for sorrow, and let us be marked, not for shame. Let us be marked, not for false humility, or for thinking we are less than we are, but for claiming what God can do within the dust, within the dirt, within the stuff of which this world is made, and the stars that blaze in our bones, and the galaxies that spiral inside the smudge we bear. The gospel reading connects to this poet's call to not be marked by false humility. Praying, fasting, and doing good deeds just so people will see us doing them doesn't glorify God, but rather it glorifies ourselves. When I was a senior at Boston College, I also had the privilege of being named the captain of the men's track and field program. As an athlete, I was often afforded the opportunity to attend many different service opportunities to help the people of Boston who needed it far more than I did. At the end of the year, there would always be a final awards banquet for all athletes. It was a nice dinner to honor the many achievements for some very talented students, some of whom would go on to professional careers in the NFL, the NBA, WNBA, Olympic teams, etc. One award that was given at the end of each year was an award for the athlete who dedicated themselves to community service. I can remember my senior year at BC pushing myself to join as many trips to serve the community as possible. But I would be lying to you if there wasn't a competitive streak in all of that led me to desire that award. And of course, when I didn't receive the award, for at least an evening and probably a few more days, I was bitter. But after the banquet, I had an opportunity to take another trip. One consistent trip that we took, and this was, all student athletes who joined, was to the Franciscan Children's Hospital. At this hospital, if you went on the trip, you would often be placed in a room with children who were nonverbal, in wheelchairs, hooked up to breathing machines, and sometimes even unable to open their eyes. Children who would never, ever know the gifts that anyone in this room might take for granted on a given day. I can remember one boy in particular, Jack, who would light up every week or every time we would come to see him. He would type jokes on his keyboard and always send us off by typing 3 simple words, "I love you." I can remember that particular day when it dawned on me how I had it all wrong. A kid who had every reason to complain about a hand he was dealt, instead saw the beauty of his time in this world. And here I am, trying to win an award to hang on a shelf for people to see. Not what God had in mind. The poem tells us, let us be marked not for thinking we are less than we are, but for claiming what God can do within the dust, within the dirt. Today, I ask you to take this line with you and understand that there is great beauty in Ash Wednesday. That beauty resides in marveling at God's work through us. Though we will one day return to dust, it is important to focus on the time we have on this earth. How will you spend it? Will you use your gifts to spread love and kinship? Or will you post offensive content on TikTok and get some clicks or laughs? Will you do everything you can to push yourself to be the best student, athlete, actor, etc.? Or will you quickly point the finger at teachers, coaches, or teammates when things don't go your way? Will you choose to do the right thing because it is right? Or will you do it just to add another trophy to your collection? Ash Wednesday tells us that God made stars that blaze in our bones and galaxies that spiral inside the smudge we bear. It is on us to recognize the beauty of our imperfect and temporary time at prep and on earth. We can do this by living in kinship with each other, learning from our mistakes, and upholding a famous mantra from the first track guy ever sponsored by Nike, to bring it all back, Steve Prefontaine, where he said, "To give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift."